Hi, this is Shannon from WTE. I'm going to do a walkthrough of some of the RF configuration items inside the menu. I'm connected to the TReX through our web GUI interface that is very similar to using the unit itself and is just mirroring all of the screen. So first enter the menu, go down to the RF submenu, and here we have all the RF parameters. The first item is whether the unit is operating in its simplex mode. Simplex for TReX means that the transmit and receive parameters are common. Here, when we change the frequency and the modulation and the mode, then they're also applied to the receiver as well. Because the receiver can actually operate independently on different frequencies, we can have the duplex setting. In this case, the transmitter uses these settings, these frequency and modulation modes apply to the transmitter, and inside the receiver submenu are other receiver specific frequency, modulation and mode items. Here we're able to disable the receiver. This may be required to save some power, and there may be a 50 milliamp reduction in power and current consumed. Or the unit may wish to be operated purely as a receiver only. Here we can change the transmitter frequency. The transmitter frequency, modulation and mode can be changed. However, it would be a good idea to make sure that these are only changed if you have authority to change that, since different countries have different regulations on which frequencies can be used and power levels, and since this unit can operate it on licensed channels, it will probably most likely be illegal to transmit on frequencies that you are not permitted to use. So here we have, we're moving down to modulation. Modulation, there are many different modulation modes available for the TReX. Here we are operating at 1200 baud, 25 kHz channel spacing. Pressing the down button, you can see the other modulations. Starting at the first modulation, we have 512 baud, 25 kHz channel spacing. 512 baud, 12.5 kHz channel spacing. 512 baud, 6.25 kHz channel spacings. Again, we have options for 1200 baud, 1600 baud, and this would be useful when receiving flex messages. 2400 baud, 4800 baud, and here we can see there is now a new type of modulation visible, 4L 6.25. This means that we're no longer using just a straight 2-level modulation, we're now using a 4-level modulation. Here we have, in this case, it's a 2-level modulation, 9600 baud, 25 kHz channel spacing. And again, 4-level modulation, 25 kHz channel spacing. In most cases, the 4-level modulations are spectrally cleaner. However, all of the modulations are compliant. In this case, we have 16K 4-level modulation for both 25 and 12 kHz channel spacing and our highest rate of 32K, which is permitted to be used for FCC United States areas. Here we have the mode. In this case, our options are: this is whether the transmitter and receiver are using alphanumeric POXAG. The setting is numeric POXAG. The POXAG settings are used for POXAG standard devices such as belt pagers and other legacy POXAG products. A WTE enabled modulation allows 8-bit data to be transmitted, whereas POXAG data can only support 7-bit data. Inside the transmitter settings, we have the power level, and this can be up to 4 watts down to 250 milliwatts. Again, this should only be changed if you have authority to change this for the frequency that you're using. Here we have the default level. This is the level that is used for some protocols, specific mainly for POXAG transmissions. Here we have the preamble length, and this can be configured from any length from 128 bits through to thousands of bits for a very long preamble. This allows some receivers to be in a very long duration sleep period. In most cases, 128 will be fine. Lead-in, this is the duration that the TReX will wait after the carrier has been applied before a transmission starts. The lead-out is the delay after a transmission has ended before the transmitter keys down. The REC database allows multiple items to be configured when a transmission needs to be sent to many users. This is the periodic transmission. Enabling it, in this case, to 10 will result in the periodic message being transmitted every 10 seconds. The periodic message, in this case, is in the WT protocol format documented in the manual. In this case, we have the required format for the WT protocol, then the start of the message that's actually transmitted. Here we have our variable content macros being used, asterisk 01, which is the incrementing sequential number, and other variable content macro information. Message log. When enabled, all transmitted messages are logged to the SD card. Minimum power. This item is configured so that if the output power fails to reach this level, an error output can be controlled to give notification that there is a transmitter fault. And in this case, should the output power be greater than what is expected, we can operate a fault output as well. Here we have the maximum permitted current to be drawn by the TReX during transmission. In this case, if the TReX tries to draw more than 1.5 amps, the transmitter will limit the current being drawn so that no more power can be used. This is useful because Sometimes an antenna mismatch or fault will result in a much higher current draw. This protects the TReX and also allows an error output to be raised. Inside the receiver items, we have the RIC ranges that can be configured. Inside of each of the RIC ranges, we can set the low and the high range that a POXAG receiver would receive messages over. We can have up to 8 different ranges. Each of these ranges here can be attached to an output if required. We have the busy level. An output can be configured to operate when a signal is above this threshold. The link fail time. Each time a message is received, the link fail timer is reset to this duration. Should a message not be received within this period, an error output can be operated. The alert. When a message is received or the alert filter has been activated, then this output will be operated for this duration of time. The demod screen is used to display, and unfortunately we can't see on this screen, signal data in real time. Unfortunately does not work through the web GUI interface. Message log. When this is enabled, all received messages are logged to the internal storage. This item must be enabled to view the historic received messages through the summary screens. The alert filter. When this has been enabled, a text file called alert.txt, as described in the manual, is used. Each item in the alert text file is filtered so that a received message, if it contains any of those items, will operate the alert output. When the include filter is enabled, a text file called include.txt is used. Every time a message is received, each item in the include filter is compared against the content of the message. Each message that does not contain part of at least one of the include filter items will be rejected. The exclude filter. This allows filtering of content of messages. Each message that does not contain each message that contains these entries will be discarded. For example, this is a periodic, maybe an entry in the exclude.txt file. All messages that are received with this is a test will be discarded. All of the filter options are fully documented in the manual. Receive, frequency, modulation and mode when the RF setting has been set to duplex. That's the end of the RF menu walkthrough.